Welcome back. Still to come, Denise Robertson tackles some of your Christmas dilemmas, and he kept us entertained for 20 days in the jungle. Joey Essex joins us live.
First, though, when does a glass of wine at the end of the day for stressed-out mums turn into a problem? And how do you tackle the problem when you're already run off your feet, holding down a job and looking after your family?
Well, someone who knows only too well is mum of two, Lucy Rocker, who used to drink to excess in the evening. At her worst, she ended up in hospital after drinking 3 bottles of wine one evening. And Lucy joins us now. And thank you very much for being here and being so honest about this. If we can go back to when it started, because I guess you sort of go through life, you have a drink, and then it escalates. But you started drinking quite early, really, sort of early teens, and it was something that everybody around you was doing. You sort of had a bit of a drinking culture back then.
Yeah, it was just completely normal. When I was a teenager, me and my friends would just sort of drink at the weekend and at parties, and I never kind of questioned it as anything out of the ordinary.
But were you the one that always took it just a bit too far?
I would say that I never had an off switch, and yes, I was sometimes a bit of a liability, perhaps at parties and things, drinking too much and passing out. And
so then, in your 20s and 30s, you say ladette sort of culture back then in the 90s didn't really help, because women were seen to be going out and keeping up with the boys and just drinking as much, drinking each other under the table. Yeah. So that had an influence on you. And also, you say that the drink industry, if you like, targeted women. It was sort of became this new place.
Yeah, I think there was sort of a bit of a two-pronged attack. It was the ladette culture, and then at the same time the wine industry is really sort of set about marketing wine towards women and selling it as quite a convivial, innocuous thing to do, really. And once I grew out of the ladette culture and got married and settled into sort of family life, I just bought into that idea that a glass of wine, a couple of glasses of wine at night, was a sophisticated, nice thing to do, and girly nights in with your friends.
But there was, of course, many people managed to do that, but there was still this switch that was stuck. There was no off switch with you. Yeah,
and, you know, if people can drink in moderation, then that's fine, and it is just, I think you know inside whether you are not OK with it, and I had a growing awareness throughout my 20s that there was definitely a destructive relationship that I had with alcohol.
What about socially? How much were you drinking socially?
Probably not that much more than my friends, but the impact it had on me was always a lot worse, and maybe I drank faster than them, but I would regularly sort of get bundled into a taxi at 11 o'clock when everybody else carried on. Maybe they paced themselves a bit better than me.
Well, as you get older, I mean, you had a daughter, sadly you went through a divorce, and you said that after that it became even more frequent, the drinking after the divorce. Yeah,
that was definitely my turning point, when it became less social and more sinister, if you like, and it was... and I was lonely, financially struggling and stressed, and once my daughter had gone to bed at 7 o'clock, I was on my own every night, unable to go out.
Did your daughter see you drunk?
On a rare occasion she did, but not... I mean, she was in bed at 7 o'clock and I would drink after she'd gone to bed, so...
But also, she didn't need to see you having a drink, because actually it was having a bit of an impact on her, because you'd be rushing the bedtime story to run downstairs and pour yourself a glass.
Yeah, I used to do that, sort of desperate to get that first glass of wine after a bit of a busy day. Yeah. And also the next day, you know, the hangover, being a bit grumpy, lethargic, being a bit snappy. I was just generally at quite a low ebb and suffered from depression, which I now put down to the drinking. Yeah.
Was Christmas worse?
Christmas was awful, and I absolutely dreaded it for years. As a single parent, I used to share custody with my ex-husband, with my daughter, and I just hated her, hated knowing that I was going to be on my own Christmas Eve or Christmas Day night, and also with Christmas being solely around booze. And yeah, she was away at her dad's, and also Christmas is just so much about drinking in this country that I saw it as a green card, really, and just went for it.
So did you ever think you had a problem?
Yes. On occasion, I thought I had a problem, but again, because of the culture we live in, it's easy to sort of laugh it off and just kid yourself that you're doing the same as everybody else. And you know, people in offices talk and have a laugh about the Christmas party antics and stuff. So you kind of...
Because you weren't the type of person that was waking up in the morning and drinking a vodka first thing. You weren't sort of that classic alcoholic.
Exactly. Sort of... Yeah, so it's that denial thing, because you're not that bad, you're not on a park bench, you're not drinking a litre of cider every day or super strength beer or whatever. It's easy to kid yourself that it's OK.
But it did put you in hospital, because in April in 2011, at the age of 35, you woke up in a hospital bed with no idea how you got there.
Yes. I did, and now I am very pleased that that happened, because I think I needed a huge wake-up call to make me realise that I would never have a healthy relationship with alcohol, and I really needed to stop drinking full stop, which I did.
Thankfully a friend had found you, because you'd gone outside to have a cigarette on the front doorstep and you'd passed out, vomited, and whoever it was found you.
He was a friend who also is a nurse, and drove past on his motorbike and found me on the pavement, unconscious and vomiting, and phoned the ambulance, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with no memory at all of getting there.
You said that you went to Alcoholics Anonymous.
I didn't actually go to Alcoholics Anonymous.
But you thought about it?
I thought about it.
But the problem there was the commitment, because it does work for a lot of people.
It does work. And
for you, the commitment, time and habit.
It was a few things. It was the religious aspect. It was the fact that I was a single parent and I couldn't have really committed to going to those meetings physically. And also I didn't class myself as an alcoholic, you know, which is strange. Some people might find that strange if I drank 3 bottles of wine in a night, but mostly my drinking was sociable and not too destructive to have that much of an impact that I would consider myself an alcoholic.
So the way you chose, and you've set up a website, you've got a book, which we'll talk about in just a second, but the way you chose to do it was to break the habit of your drinking. Yeah,
that's right. I never found it physically difficult to stop drinking because I wasn't physically dependent, but emotionally I used it at every turn. If I'd had something to celebrate, if I'd had a bad day, if I was a bit stressed, I would just turn to a bottle of wine all the time. So it was just rewiring my brain, really, and learning new coping strategies and relearning how to be in social situations without relying on alcohol as a crutch.
But those social situations are tough.
Yeah,
because
really
most of our
tough.
social situations revolve around alcohol. Yeah. It's sort of what we do.
Yeah, and also when you drink habitually for that long, you don't realise how much you use alcohol as a confidence builder, and I just found that I was actually quite shy in social situations without alcohol, so...
We, in conjunction with one poll, we surveyed 1,000 women with children aged between 0, babies, and 18. Put all the statistics on the website, there's quite a lot of them. I just picked a couple out here. 15% admit to drinking in front of their children several times a week. 28% said they admit that they've been drunk in front of their child. Just under a third admit that they drink to alleviate the stress of looking after the children. Almost half said that they wouldn't be prepared to give up alcohol for good. And 1 in 6 admit that they've been too hungover to be a good parent. So they are extraordinary statistics, and so it's a great name. Your website is Soberistas, which is brilliant, for women in your situation, and we'll put a link to that on our website. So what sort of interest have you had?
Well, in a year we've had 17,000 members, and largely the demographic that we hit is the 30 to 50, exactly who you've described, the professional mum with, you know, who's a bit stressed, juggling lots of things in her life and just hitting the wine after the kids have gone to bed.
The dedication in the book, it says here that this book is dedicated to every woman out there for whom 1 drink is too many and 1,000 is never enough, and I think that really does sum it up, and that is the book there, The Sober Revolution, Women Calling Time on Wine O'Clock. It's changed you entirely as a person, as a parent.
Yeah, it's just changed me for the better, and the book is really aimed at people in the situation I was in, which is just, you know, just using wine to get through life. But what I found out since stopping drinking is that, like, my life is so much better, and I cope in it with stress and all the reasons that I drank in the first place. I don't have those stresses anymore because I don't drink. The depression's gone, the anxiety's gone. I'm just a much better parent, and I cope much better in all situations without alcohol.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
much. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks. Thank you.
If Lucy's story has rung any bells for you and you would like advice or information, go to our website. As we said, we'll put the link to her website on there as well.
And we'll be back after the break. Don't go away.